Welcome back to another episode of Car Stories with
Sung Kang
and Emelia Hartford. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Do you?
I do.
That was a very confident yes.
Yes. I didn't until I spent time in Hawaii.
Hawaii?
Yeah.
Did you see a ghost?
I didn't see, I felt.
What happened?
So I was up in North Shore working on this film, and in Turtle Bay Hotel, the story or the rumor is that it's built on top of a
cemetery.
Yeah, cemetery, right? So there are these ghosts like walking around the property, and I was like, I heard that, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, ghosts, come on, ghosts, yeah, okay, whatever. So one night I go to sleep. We were shooting at Turtle Bay, so we were staying there, and I was on I think it was like the third floor, the top floor of the hotel, right? So like there's either 2 or 3 stories, and so at the top of the hotel, and the view is like of the water, and you know, like when you wake up and you're just kind of still laying there, so you're not asleep. Like I woke up and I'm under the covers because I heard these footsteps of like a little kid running across the room, and the carpet was like, you know, this kind of compact carpet, that like Burberry carpet, where you could hear, it's like you could the thumping, right? Yeah, the pitter patter, right? And I hear this, and all of a sudden, whoever's running in the room hits the foot of the bed, right? Bumps into it, and I was like, oh, this is probably one of the castmates like playing a practical joke on me or something, or maybe they snuck into the room. But I remember I locked the door, and I was like, maybe they snuck into like the balcony or something. I'm just like going through like all these scenarios in my head, and I hear the pitter patter like 3 times, right? And then I'm like, all right, 1, 2, 3, and I go, wah! Like I was like, gonna scare whoever's in the room, right? And it's empty room. And I'm like, nah, that's so strange, because I felt the bump on the bed. And then I look on the balcony, the door was still closed, and I'm like, that's odd. And there's no real way that you're gonna like, you know, climb into the balcony and like get into, you know, my room. And I checked the door, it's like completely locked. And I was like, that was strange. And there was, you know, it's not like I partied the night before. I slept at an early hour, and I remember I was awake under the blankets, right? So it wasn't like I was dreaming, right? And I was like freaking out now. I'm like, that was so strange. Oh, there's like rats or something. And then I went down to the front desk, and I was like, hey, are there like rodent problems? Did they get through like the air conditioner vent or something? Like, because I heard the sound of like footsteps, and the guy behind the counter was just very nonchalant. It's like, yeah, it might be the ghosts. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, this guy, whatever. So then I go to get ready. I was like in the makeup chair, and our makeup artist, the head makeup artist, was a witch. And a witch in Hawaii is not like bad witch that puts curses and stuff. It's like person that is able to speak to, you know, the deceased, and it's like it's more of like a, you know, a positive like
medium
person, yeah, medium, I guess, in the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a Hawaiian witch, right? And then I was telling her, I was like, hey, you know, this is just so weird. It's like I've never experienced anything like this. And I told her the story of the footsteps and the bump, and she's like, oh yeah, that's probably the mischievous ghost. It's like so nonchalant. It wasn't like, what? Wow, that's crazy. Or questions like, were you drunk or something? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, oh, that's the mischievous ghost. And I was like, what does that mean? It's like, oh, you know, this hotel is built on top of a cemetery. And I'm like, so there are these spirits like running around, and that's probably a mischievous ghost that is in your room and is kind of messing with you, right? And so what you need to do, and she pulls out,
could never.
Huh?
I could never.
What?
Keep going. This is like...
Yeah. So she pulls out red sea salt, Hawaiian sea salt. And she's like, okay, you need to take the salt, you put it into the corners of the room, and then you say, hey, mischievous ghost, I'm going to be here for this amount of time. Like, you know, please don't bother me anymore. I'm not going to like play with you. Because the mischievous ghost wants to come and play. But then I went to the room, and I put the sea salt, the red sea salt on Hawaiian salt in the corners. And I was like, yo, mischievous ghost, I'm Sung, and I'm going to be here for like 3 weeks. So, I don't think I want to be playing with you anymore. So don't bother me anymore. And then it never happened again.
Really?
Yeah. How about you? You have
I
ghost
would be
stories?
so scared to stay in that hotel. Yeah, I have so many.
Yeah.
I would be so scared to stay in that hotel again after that.
But the witch said that this ghost is not going to come in. Like,
but I'd
hurt
be
you.
worried about the other souls, the other ghosts.
Well, she was like, you're not here to do anything bad, right? Like if you were here doing something bad,
you might
whatever
be
that
visited
means,
by others.
Yeah, these other ghosts might come and like mess with you. And she did tell me, do not take any sand or rocks from this area. Don't take it back to LA with you.
What if someone gets like stuck in your shoes?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. But like if people put it in a bottle or they take rocks and they go, oh, it's a souvenir. She's like, don't do that. Right.
I've had a lot. I've had a lot of creepy experiences that I full-heartedly believe in spirits and ghosts and all that. A lot of people think this is BS when I tell them the story, but 100% on my life, it is not. When we were younger, we lived by an abandoned hospital. And what we would do for fun, before phones and stuff like that, was we'd crawl into one of the windows in the very back of this abandoned hospital, and we'd walk around with our flashlights because like spooky stuff would happen all the time. So we're like, oh, we're going like ghost hunting. And one time I very vividly remember we were in the NICU, I think it's called, where, babies who are born too early, like they have all of the
incubator.
Yes, thank you. That they stand. It was like one of those rooms, and there was a box of spoons, of metal spoons, in like a box, a cardboard box that was sitting on the table. And we'd walk by, and like you'll hear like a little giggling in the background or something. That's like, oh, we're kids. We're like, oh, this is crazy. We walked by the spoons, and right as we're turning around the corner, we heard like a thud. The spoons fell over on the floor. And I swear to God, every single one of those spoons had been bent in half. So they were all folded. They were straight in this box before, hit the ground. Every single one of them was bent in half. And it was the weirdest thing that I'd ever experienced. And that was the last time we went back to that hospital. And they ended up tearing it down a few years later. I can't say I've ever visually seen a ghost, but I've had moments that have spooked me so badly that the slightest, like, I feel energy. That sounds so like cheesy to say, but when I walk in a room, you can feel the energy. And if I get a negative energy, it'll creep me out because I've had these weird experiences that have happened.
I'd like to like be possessed by a ghost.
No, I would not.
Because then at least it would like confirm that they're real.
I think it's an energy. I don't think it's so much a being or a thing,
I would like to be possessed and then like live in this possessed state and have the ghost powers. Like ghost powers would be pretty cool. That's some like
exorcist shit.
Yeah, think about it. Like you go, I could pick out like the Powerball numbers.
I don't think it works like that.
Well, what are these ghost rules? Like I want to like sit down and meet a ghost or an alien.
Well, they say ghosts are spirits that haven't passed on to the afterlife and they're stuck. So
yeah,
I can't imagine it'd be like a very positive experience.
Well, do you believe in aliens?
I would feel dumb to not believe that there's some other living form
Well, how
out there
come
in
we
the
never
world.
We've yet to see one.
Well, maybe
Like
they've been here the entire time.
Alien?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I feel like an alien sometime. Well, speaking of aliens, who to me sometimes is an alien.
Okay.
And the way he is just so our next guest, Mike Spagnola, right?
I don't maybe that segue.
Yeah, he's kind of like an alien. He's an anomaly.
Sure.
Like he has so much enthusiasm for life and people and cars.
He's the CEO of SEMA Show.
That's right.
Talks about having a great work-life balance and also some of the incredible things that SEMA's doing for this world, quite frankly.
It's something that you can really be inspired by. And, we get a great, interesting kind of insight on, the EV argument. Is that the future? Is that the solution? Right? All right. without further ado, Mr. Mike Spagnola. For the viewers out there and the listeners, Mike is an old friend of mine.
Yeah.
He currently is the CEO of SEMA. For you guys that don't know SEMA, I guess for the layman, it would be like the mecca for all car-related things. Every year in Vegas in November.
The largest trade show of the world?
In the U.S. for sure.
In the U.S. when it comes to automotive?
Yep.
And you guys are also a nonprofit too, right? So you give a lot back to the community.
Yeah, so we really, anything we make on the show, we just reinvest in the industry, into this culture of ours, into this hobby of ours, and then help our manufacturers and resellers, the retailers grow and prosper is kind of what we do. So we make money on the show. We have a due structure and all of that, but literally we pour it all back into a lot of things every year. Everything from Reg Leg, the government stuff that we have to be involved in, and education and training. And you've been to our SEMA garages, where we help manufacturers develop products and take them to market, and just a lot of those sort of things, scholarship programs, and anything that gives back to the automotive community to help it grow and prosper, and to protect this culture, this lifestyle that we all love.
Yeah.
That's all part of it.
How long have you been with SEMA for?
So I came in, I've been in the automotive industry over 40 years, bought and sold a few companies over that time. And in 2013, I sold my shares in my last company and came to SEMA on a 3-year contract to build the SEMA garage and this product development center, because I'd spent so much of my life doing product development and working with the OEs, working with Ford and GM and all the others on when new vehicles come out, having all those accessories ready to go for them. And so I'm 11 years into my 3-year contract now, and sitting as the president and CEO. So big thrill for me. It's just to be part of this industry, and I would have never thought to be where I am today, but it's pretty cool. It's a good deal. So yeah, but it's we didn't grow up with a ton. My dad was a bartender, and my mom was an opera singer.
Opera singer,
Whoa.
which is super cool.
Yeah.
I love the opera.
But I can remember my mom, sitting on the kitchen table in the morning counting quarters and dimes and nickels and for tips that my dad would get. She'd roll up her quarters, and that's what we'd use to go to the grocery store or, buy stuff with. So.
And you were really into, which was super cool. I think that's where we really connected, is into, Datsuns. Early on, I mean, you were racing 510s.
Yeah.
There's these cool pictures in his office of him racing 510s. It was
I have always wanted a 510. That's one of my dream cars. I love hearing that you used to race them.
So they, I was probably, first off, I wasn't great in sports and in high school, and I, wasn't the popular kid around town and all that. So I was a car guy, and we were kind of the dumb auto shop guys. But then on top of that, I was an import guy when everybody else was muscle car. Growing up in the 60s, you had to love Chevelles and Camaros and Mustangs and Corvettes. And I don't know what it was. I just loved import cars. I had a brother-in-law that raced sports cars, and so that was probably part of it. We'd go out to Riverside Raceway, but I fell in love with 510s and, back in Pete Brock days and, that sort of thing. And so I was still, even though I was an auto shop, I was still the odd guy out because I was in import cars, not the muscle car scene. But it was just part of me. It was just in my soul, I think, from the beginning.
What did you like about those cars? What drew you to those?
I think just it was something new and different. And, at that point, again, Brock Racing and Pete Brock and John Morton and those guys, watching them race.
So for people who don't know Pete Brock, Ford versus Ferrari, Pete Brock actually worked on the Shelby cars. Right. And then he eventually started building Datsun 510s and 240s and built for Paul Newman.
Paul Newman, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and so right when I was 13, 14, the 240Z came out, so 1970. And so that was just a dream car. That was just, and honestly, some of the guys were like, oh, it's Japanese. They were kind of making fun of it. But to me, it was just, you fell in love with it, just the shape and what it was. And then a buddy of mine in high school got one. He got a brand new one. And so we would ride around in that. And And then after high school, I went to work for a Datsun dealership, and just as a delivery driver, and sweeping floors and working in behind the counter, that sort of thing, just because I wanted to be around that. And I wanted to build a race car. I think I actually started with a, when I was 13, I had a 55 Mercury that my grandparents gave me. And then it wasn't running. I got it running. And when I was about 14 and a half, my dad came home early and I was driving it down the street. So that was the last time I saw it. But after high school, I was just in love with Datsuns. It was just one of those things, I couldn't get enough of it. So
you got to build one.
Me?
You need to get a
I
Datsun.
would love that.
You need to.
This sounds a little ridiculous because it's a bit non-conventional, but my dream 510 has always been a rotary swap 510. And I know that's
13B,
asking, yeah, I know it's asking for headaches and problems and unreliability, but I always had the dream that's when I did a 510, I would do a rotary swap on one. But I love those cars so much. And
they're kind of like the old 2002 BMW a little bit, that's kind of, but they were just so well handling and they're just cool. I can't.
Yeah, there's something about them.
There's just something about them.
Yeah.
And actually, I think before that, I had a Datsun Roadster. And then kind of thought, well, this is kind of stupid. I don't have a roof over my head trying to race these things. So I swapped over although the Roadster was quicker, I swapped over to a 510 and just loved racing it. That was kind of my roots, kind of my bones.
And the Roadster is still a big part of your life and your family's life.
Yeah.
The thing is, like when I have a template for the perfect like movie dad, I always would think of Mike Spagnola.
Really?
Because he has 3 kids. He has 2 sons, and he has a daughter.
Yeah.
And the Datsun Roadster is this connective tissue with him and his boys, right? Because both his sons, they built Roadsters. They buy them, they flip them, they do resto mods, like basically resurrect any Roadster, and then they can flip it and make good money, right? And
the problem is we hang on to them.
That's my problem too.
Yeah.
I think I've sold 1 car in my lifetime.
It's first world problems, but I've got cars that should be in the garage that are sitting in the driveway because there's no room for them, right? But I've been blessed. I got 3 amazing kids, and my daughter's a stay-at-home mom, school teacher, but all the kids are into the car scene. Both my boys are, as you know, they're both in the industry. And so, and it's kept us all close. It's kept us out of trouble. We do a lot of off-road racing together and track days together. And now I've got 4 grandkids, a 5th one on the way. And they're into it. So we were out at Johnson Valley a couple of weeks ago at King of the Hammers and took some side-by-sides out and dirt bikes and quads. And the whole family we went camping for a few days and just tore it up out in the desert.
I see why you admire him. I see it. Yeah. How do you find that work-life balance?
I remind myself all of the time, I'm at a stage in my life where, again, this it can be 12 hours a day if you let it be. It can be 5, 6, 7 days a week. But I remind myself to spend time with the family. Got a really good team at work. We've been building that team up to a point where, they're still 50-hour weeks, but they're not 60-hour weeks anymore.
Sure. Is there something you would tell yourself, younger you, looking back, knowing that this was obviously a career path, but also the time and energy that goes into work first family?
Yeah, I guess, if you want to reach for things, you got to work at it, Yeah, I missed a few baseball games, which, that haunts me probably still a little bit. But we still had a great time. We still love each other and have a good time and enjoy each other. And, we're Italian, so we get together for big family dinners and that sort of thing.
He makes a mean sauce. He has this like family sauce. It's like your sauce.
Yeah.
And he gives it out, right, too. Like, it's like a present. That's
amazing.
Yeah, it's like real Italian stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
So I try to, I think that's it. I think you just continue to work at it, continue to find that balance and find time to laugh and have a good time and, those sort of things. So,
be present in the moment.
Yeah, be present in the moment for sure. So, and again, I've been working on, even at at the office now working on the team to really step up, kind of setting it up for the next 10 years and the next generation. Finding that balance between honoring the old, honoring the Hall of Fame guys, but also being relevant to the next generation, and understanding what the next generation likes in cars, right? It's not your dad's Oldsmobile, right? So that's what we're really working hard on right now, is to make sure that happens, so that this industry and this, again, this passion, this thing that we all love continues on. So it's a lifestyle, right? And we got to protect that lifestyle.
What's changed? What do you feel like has been the drastic change from that generation, the Chip Fooses and the Edelbrocks, to today?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, I think it's there's a lot of, obviously the tuner market is hot and great right now, and which is fun because that's our passion, right? So understanding how they go to market, they don't go in the traditional distribution market. The old market was manufacture it, sell it to a warehouse sells it to parts stores, parts sales sell it to retail. A lot of that chain's been moved out, and it's direct to consumer, social media. It's different ways of branding and advertising. You're not necessarily branding and advertising in magazines now. It's a whole different way of going to market, and making sure that they've got a place, making sure that they understand that, well, a lot of the stuff is cool. There are laws that we have to kind of play by. There's emissions laws, and the government would just as soon, a lot of times, not to get, again, too political, but the government, would rather we're all driving, plain white vanilla EVs. And so protecting that part of the industry is really, really critical.
And that's a big push for SEMA. I mean, I think that's something that people don't really understand. Like, SEMA is like heavily like part of like,
legislation.
Yeah, and lobbying for like, resisting certain type of changes and stuff with the EPA.
Right.
Can we speak on that? Like you were sharing out in the hallway about, this, push to make everything EV, and maybe that's not necessarily that great, So
yeah, what we're saying is EVs should be part of our future, but it shouldn't be the only answer. I mean, there is a lot of work being done in hydrogen and synthetic fuels and biofuels. The internal combustion engine, an ICE engine, is not bad. It's what you put in it that can be bad. And so we're all for cleaner air. We're all for making sure that the environment is safe, but for the government to put their thumb on the scale and say it's EV and EV only, we're resisting that. The infrastructure for charging stations and recycle and all that stuff is going to take some time. And so we're big proponents in the direction of saying, hey, government, let all technology continue to evolve. Let's not pick one winner. Let's make sure that we're looking at all the future technologies and fuels and all those sort of things, let alone what it can do to the economy. I mean, if we were to just shut off gas-powered vehicles, 2026, 33% of the vehicles in California, they want to make EVs. That we've done some research on that. It would cost our industry about $67 billion a year.
7
billion, yeah.
Billion.
Yeah. So,
and what's the response been when you have these conversations?
Typically they get it. I mean, we work with both sides of the aisle. We talk to both sides, and some are kind of hell bent on just saying, we're marching forward and we're doing this EV deal. But you're now starting to see some pushback even from consumers. Where we had EVs were selling like crazy. Now there's about 120 days of inventory on the floors of these dealerships, and now you're seeing, BMW's come out now and said they're working on hydrogen. Toyota's been hybrid for a while. They were the first guys to step up, and they really got criticized for that. But you can build 10 hybrids for every EV just with the minerals and the batteries it takes. So, hybrids are getting 50, 60 miles to the gallon. I mean, that's not a bad deal, right? And let alone the price of it.
So do you think it is inevitable that new cars eventually will all end up as EV? Do you feel that in your gut? No?
No.
You think?
No. And again, I think, we're running internal combustion engines on hydrogen now. So, I think that's one of the answers. Let alone, for what we love, right? The noise and the drivability and the, all of that. I think it's a long run. I think it's a really long run. And I think you're going to see a lot of technologies evolve. Porsche and Shell Oil and some of these others are putting, tens of millions of dollars into synthetic fuels and renewable fuels. And I think that's really where it's going to end up.
Renewable fuels.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You don't have an EV yet, do you?
I don't. I'd be happy to have one. I feel I believe in balance, and I feel like there's times when an EV absolutely makes sense, and I'm pro EV. Don't get me wrong, but I also think you have to keep the passion alive in whatever that looks like. For me, I love working on cars, and I love tearing apart a motor, and I hope I have the opportunity to do that forever. And I wish people at home, I hope everyone gets a chance to experience that, because it really is something special. But for those who, really just need something for A to B, needs a commuter, and really doesn't care about the visceral feeling of maybe an ICE engine. That was redundant, sorry. But I then think an EV makes perfect sense.
Yep. Yeah, no, again, I agree. It's part of the solution. It's not the only solution.
Right.
So
That's a great answer.
What do you think? What's your thoughts on EV?
I was so against EV. All EVs, I was like, nah, I don't like any of it. There's nothing, like I can't connect with the cars. And then I drove this Ioniq
BCs?
5
Oh, okay.
N series Hyundai, right? In Korea. I drove it for like a week. And then I took it on the track. And then I got in their drift version of it. And it has fake sound.
Oh,
It's like 600 plus horsepower. And everything in the car is what a car enthusiast will freak out about. Like from the seats to the steering wheel to the cup holder was like the coolest cup holder I've ever seen. Because they were like, the engineers were like, designers were like, is there a criticism you have of the car? I go, yeah, there's no cup holders in this thing. And they're like, oh, we know you like cup holders. They're like, press this button. All of a sudden, it's like, I got a Star Trek. It's like, I was like, wow, that's a coolest cup holder. And they're like, what about the rest of it? I go, no, this cup holder is like the coolest cup holder I've ever seen in my life. I was like, I'm in love with this car.
Holders.
And then it has the sound. It's like, from what they were saying, is like there's these subwoofers in the back seat, and there's like, natural aspirated mode, and it just the car starts to rumble.
Wow.
And then it like backfires because you can put it in a manual mode, and you downshift, and it's like pop 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 pop. And then people outside are like, oh hey whoa hey.
But this is the EV. This is noise.
All
That
EV.
is.
Yeah.
And then you can turn it off, and it's quiet. It's just the EV car. You can just be like invisible. But then we're like rolling by like this museum, and these like older folks were out there, and I was like, listen, let's downshift. And it's like, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, what again? It's so cool.
Oh.
And you can drift this car.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, this. And the steering was like a F1, like it's like I got an F1 like race car. The whole thing, though, it's the most like, EV or not, I go, this is just an amazing looking car, driving car. It sounds amazing,
car.
right? And like the price point is like awesome. And I was like, this is all EV? I was like shocked. And so it was like converted. Like it was like I crossed the line. And even, and my character is notorious for poo-pooing on Hyundais, right? Like in Tokyo Drift, I'm like, you think I'm going to let you drive a Hyundai? And I give the keys to a Mitsubishi, right? And I converted. I was like,
no, Hyundai makes some good stuff.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like the N series, right? I drove that N74, like concept car, right? That's all the hydrogen car. And that's awesome. It's awesome. But a lot of parts are like 3D printed, and it's a concept car, right? Prototype concept. But this Ioniq 5, and look, Hyundai pays me nothing. Like I have no relationship with them, but I am this for just the car, and it's EV. I'm like, if EV cars become this, like, oh my God, we're because as a car enthusiast, I go, this is giving me everything I want, right? And that cup holder.
Well, again, it is going to evolve. Borla's come out with Borla, who makes great exhaust systems, has come out with a software package for all those sounds that you can plug into an EV. And it's got F1, it's got all those different sounds. It's got a V8 sound, all that sort of thing. So,
that's fascinating. I didn't even think about an exhaust company, how they would adapt in the future when it comes to a vehicle that does not have an exhaust system, but to develop a software to create different audio notes for various vehicles. That's what a way to adapt.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll see, again, the industry's got to continue to move and transform. This speech I did yesterday, I said, I quoted an article, and the article said, does the aftermarket have 5 more years? And it talked about government intervention and will they allow us to continue to do the things we do? It talked about the complexity of vehicles, and you're going to be able to continue to modify them because of all the computer systems and all the things in these vehicles. And it talked about next gen maybe not being interested in cars and looking at other things. And then I held up the article. It was from 1971.
Oh.
So our industry continues to find ways to be relevant to
that's relieving to hear.
Things, right?
Because my follow-up question was going to be, how do you see that shift in the younger generation? Do you see, I know what I see personally, but from your level, how do you see the younger generation's involvement in modern automotive?
So, a few things. If you think about, let's just take even the new Ford Lightning truck. It's still a truck. So you can still lift it. You can still put bigger tires and wheels. You can still put all the bed accessories. You can still go overlanding and camping. So we'll adapt. There'll be things that we adapt to. The other kind of niche market that's starting to happen, of course, is the conversion, right? So guys taking a 69 Camaro and
Porsche.
Porsche, any of those sort of things where, and then, that's evolving. It was that you had to find a wrecked Tesla and pull all the guts out of it and put it into whatever you're resto-modding. But now, we had at SEMA this year over 50 manufacturers of battery packs and motors and controllers and all those sorts of things. So that market is going to continue to evolve. So I think the younger tech generation is going to convert older vehicles into EV and just all of that conversion. You and I worked on a Maverick. Yeah. And I thought he was crazy. He was like, I was like, we're going to put a V8, we're going to put a 5.0 in it. And you're like, no, we're not. And, he said, we're going to put an EcoBoost motor.
Yeah, 2.3
EcoBoost motor.
Yeah.
Into a 71 2 Maverick.
Yeah.
But that was we did that vehicle. It was a 6-cylinder. It was, we put it on the dyno. I think it was 76 horsepower at the rear wheels. And
76
horsepower.
You guys built this for SEMA Garage, right?
Yeah, we built it with some students.
Yeah, it was like an auction car to be able to, include, young high school students on a build.
Yeah.
Right. And
That's
at the SEMA Garage,
awesome.
right?
And we put it on the dyno, and then we put it in our emissions lab at the SEMA Garage. And then we pulled that motor, we put the EcoBoost motor in it, and it was about 280, 290 at the rear wheels. And it was 70 times cleaner.
Yeah, I was going to say better emissions.
Yeah, than the original motor. And then that car went to SEMA. It actually won the Ford Design Award.
Yeah.
And Edsel Ford presented the kids with the awards. That was probably
That's amazing.
That was probably one of the highlights of my SEMA career. Right?
He came up to us and he's like, I really love the Maverick. And I go, you like the Maverick? He's like, yeah, it's the underdog, underappreciated Ford.
Well,
I was like, that's what I've been saying. Right? I've been saying.
And one of the cool things also we did with the kids was these students, we used a CMM machine, a scanner. So we scanned all the engine bay, and then we scanned the engine, and then we showed them in CAD how the engine would fit into the engine bay. And then we even 3D printed the motor.
Mm-hmm.
But we did it all in CAD, and it fit to a T when it was all done. So it's amazing where technology's gone. We used to break our knuckles and try fitting things that didn't fit and cut and shave and do all that. It's all done. And the students now, these guys that coming out of engineering school are just, when you just think it can't get any better, it continues to just get better. The builds that happen today are just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
The ingenuity and the engineering and it's fun to just watch, the younger generation light up, and talk about those sorts of things and
Yeah,
their passion.
I had the pleasure of judging one of the Young Guns a few years
you
ago,
did?
and it
Okay.
was to see these builds. It's absolutely mind blowing and so fascinating of what people are able to do at such a young age.
Because there's this argument that, car culture is dying, it's dwindling away, because, that there's less expression in these builds. But then you go to SEMA, right? And every year it's like, it tops itself, right?
Mhm.
It's like, because for car folks, it's like the mecca. Like people from, the Middle East and, from Dubai, they're like, one day, my friend, my dream
Was to
is to go to the SEMA.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
what? Like to go to the SEMA.
Yeah, over 100 countries show up.
Yeah, I always thought it was the biggest in the world, and to me, it forever will be.
Yeah.
So,
So anyway, it's and the car culture is alive and well. I mean, the industry, we're growing. The industry still grows a few $1 billion every single year, and obviously the Fast and Furious franchise kind of fueled some of that.
Speaking of, we have a connection with Fast and Furious.
Oh, yeah?
Like, so prior to SEMA, Mike had a body kit company that supplied the body kits to the Fast and Furious.
Yeah, the very first one.
oh, fun.
Yeah. Which cars?
We did the Celica, we did the Supra, we did the Mitsubishi. So, and at the time, the running storyline was it was called Redline. I think was going to be the name of the movie.
Yeah.
And
I actually remember this.
and we gave out some of these body kits, and I kind of forgot about the whole thing. And it was a year later the movie came out. It was like, hey, that's pretty cool.
It's amazing, like the 6 degrees of separation
Yeah.
people have with that franchise.
Yeah, continues on.
Yeah. When you hang out in the car community, you realize like, oh, there are very successful people that never went to college, and this like appreciation to work with your hands, right? And today, I wonder if that skill set is something that this current generation they don't value, because you're in the perfect example of it, right?
Yeah, I never finished college, so yeah, I'm a big proponent of trade schools. I really am, and 4-year college isn't for everybody, and in fact, it really frustrates me to see young kids go through college and be in debt for over $100,000, $120,000, $130,000, and come out with a degree that they really can't use towards their life, towards their skills. And I run into it all the time where they're in just debt forever. Paying back $500, $600, $700 a month, $1,000 a month too, and for 15 years, 20 years. It's really a shame. Sung, you and I have gone to high schools and talked about this because really it's not even the students, it's the parents. The parents are so focused on my kid is going to go to a 4-year college, but they don't always come out with skills that they can use that they're going to move forward with in a trade. And so I'm a big proponent of, if you can get through a 4-year college, great. And if you can use those skills to better your career, great. But trade schools are alive and well in the automotive industry. We're always going to need carpenters. We're always going to need plumbers. We're always going to need electricians. We're always going to need auto technicians. And especially as this thing does move towards EV, great need. I was talking to Roger Penske a couple of years ago, and with his, between all his car dealerships and all the other things, they were looking for 20,000 technicians over the next few years. And so, you can come out of UTI or some of these schools now, and you're starting at 80,000, 90,000 a year. So
yeah, people don't know this, right? It's like you get a job at BMW or Porsche. It's like 65 to 85,000 starting with benefits, right?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But like anything in life, you have to hustle, right? If people think they're going to come into anything and be, 8 to 5 and do other things, you can make a career, but you're not going to excel in it.
Wait, what characteristics about these individuals stand out? Like,
I think it's anything in business, right? Having tenacity, having to put in the time and the effort, failing getting up, picking yourself back up, doing it again, failing, picking yourself back up, doing it again, doing what you have to do to make it, whether that's, living at home and putting the time and the effort in and understanding the car culture and understanding the products needed. It's the, mother of invention, right? It's anything you see something break and you think you can build it better. No matter what happens, that's what keeps our industry going, just being unique and different. And I don't want to be the same as the other guy. I want to have something different on my mod that, makes me stand out. It's an expression of who you are, right? It's really a canvas that shows who you are and what makes you. So it's no different than clothing or anything else, right? It's a fashion statement.
Yeah. And here's a question for myself. The thing that really has always really stood out with you is your relationship with your wife. Like, how do you keep, this marriage and the friendship, like it's always fresh. I never feel like, when you two are still the energy is like high school sweethearts.
He's smiling as you talk about
it right now.
now.
It's like, you meet some couples and you're like, yo, man, they're like, they're on their last thread, right? They're just tolerating each other, where I never feel that with you two. And for people that are going through this, right? Like the relationship kind of stalemate, I guess. How do you keep it fresh?
Yeah.
And how long have you guys been together for?
41 years.
41 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's look, you have to work at it, right? You have to continue to work at it. You have to have good communication. We take time to go out. We still date, we are Christian people, so I think that plays into it as well, that we have that commitment to each other. I try to include her a little more in even my business travels, and even though she isn't a car person necessarily, she's had to become one over the years. So you got to work at it. You have to just continue to work at it and remind each other as to what we're doing and why we're here and all that.
So when she gets on you for working too much and never being at home, what's your response?
Confession, this is part of that work-life balance. I've never taken 2 full weeks off of vacation.
Wow.
Like I'll take a week at a time or 3 days at a time, 4 days. But in now 50 years of a career, I've never taken a full 2 weeks off. And
we also love what you do.
Yep. So I'll tell you, so we're going to Europe. We're going to go to Italy this summer, and I'm taking 2 full weeks off. And so you'll enjoy this. We were at the dinner table with the kids and grandkids, and we told them we're going to Italy this summer. And the kids said, well, what dates? And I said, well, end of August to second week of September. And Andrew stands up, my oldest son, and he goes, Dad, isn't that, when's Monza, the Formula One race? Isn't that the first week of September? And I stared at him like the Death Star. I'm like, I'm going to kill you right now. And that was a big deal because, wait, we're going to Italy because you want to go to the Formula One race? I said, no. We might show up there. We might show up there. The Ferrari factory might be on our way. So we've had kind of this running joke. So probably like you guys, anywhere you go, you end up finding car people, right? You end up finding that deal. And so many times in my life, we'll go to something that has nothing to do with cars, and we find the car guys, and Diana will just shake her head.
Do you share everything with her, work stress? Do you bring that home?
Yeah.
I imagine if you guys have been together for 41 years, you tell each other everything. Yeah. Am I right?
Yeah. Except if I buy a car that I didn't tell her about, or no.
Really?
Although he has a lot of those. There's a lot of those stories.
No, I did have one that I was actually on Bring a Trailer, and I was looking at an Aston Martin, and I always wanted.
And your thumb slipped.
And she knew I kind of wanted one, but I didn't tell her I was looking for one, and and I was kind of bidding on it, and I thought I'll throw in one last bid because it was below market, and all of a sudden I bought it, and it was like, oh crap, I got to go home and tell her.
But you told her, you didn't wait for the car to show up, did you?
No. But I told her, and she was fine with it. She was like, you always wanted that car, go for it. you deserve it, those sort of things. So,
but that's the communication where she knew you loved the car.
Yeah.
She knew you always wanted one. You were honest and open with her about having purchased it. So there still is that communication that you guys are constantly having amongst one another, which is so important, I think.
Yeah. You and I saw when the Z was at SEMA show a couple of years ago, and I went over to look at it. And I was like, I gotta have the new Z.
Mm.
And she was good with it. I mean, she understood the heritage with me with Datsuns and Nissans, and anyway, it's been good. And of course, she likes her shopping as well, so we try to make sure that balance happens.
Yeah, you go shopping with her?
I do.
You do?
I do. Yeah, I'll go.
Why do you
with her.
sound so surprised?
No, that's pretty. For 41 years, that's something that it's hard for me to do now.
Shop?
Yeah.
Because I'm because I used to try to do that, go and just carry the bags, right? But then, God, I hate shopping.
Yeah. I don't
like it either.
I'm like you. If I need clothes, I'll walk in. I'm in there 10 minutes. I don't even look at the price. I buy what I need and I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, this was just wonderful to sit down with you and
you guys as well. I've been listening to your podcast, and it's been fun to
thank you
to be here. When you sent me the invite the other day, I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm there. So
it worked out.
Everything
perfectly.
happens for a reason.
I'm honored to be here and honored to be a guest. So thank you.
And we should give credit where credit's due. You jumped straight from a flight from LAX, drove straight here, and now you're on to another job. And we really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thank you. And again, thanks for the invite. Anytime.